Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the witnesses for being here today. The development of thousands of PFAS varieties have become a part of modern industries, from corrosion-preventing coatings in our electronics, automobiles, and medical devices, to safety applications such as firefighting foams that keep us safe. PFAS is now part of our world. But these advancements have come with a cost. Without proper disposal, these chemicals contaminate our soil and water, putting our communities at risk for increased rates of serious health conditions, including cancer, infertility, and birth defects. We need to work together to protect the public health and the environment from PFAS. My first question is for you, Ms. Bowers. Prior to the designation of PFOA and PFAS as hazardous substances, how did EPA handle the cleanup of these pollutants at Superfund sites?
Thank you for that question, Senator. Prior to the designation, PFAS and PFOA were not considered hazardous substances under CERCLA, and so cleanup authority to address them was more limited. I should note that it's common for more than one contaminant of concern to be present at a cleanup site under CERCLA. And so it may have been the case that where PFAS was co-located with other contaminants of concern, it may have been cleaned up or addressed incidental to other contaminants. But prior to designation, EPA's response authority to address PFAS would only have been available to address an imminent and substantial endangerment to public health or the environment.
And how will the new designations change the way cleanups are conducted at Superfund sites?
Thank you. The cleanup process remains the same as it was. EPA would typically begin by investigating and assessing the nature and the extent of the contamination and identifying potentially responsible parties. Cleanup of the newly designated PFAS could be at sites that are already being cleaned up or have already been cleaned up under CERCLA. It could potentially be identified and be cleaned up at new or additional sites as well.
I know EPA has historically focused on the parties most responsible for pollution. What tools does EPA have to support potential passive receivers like airports or water utility companies that are either required by law to use PFAS or unaware of PFAS contamination?
Thank you. As was mentioned in the opening remarks, CERCLA is a strict liability statute, which means that liability under CERCLA attaches regardless of intent, knowledge, or prior legal regime. As I had mentioned earlier, EPA does have enforcement discretion at its disposal. Under CERCLA, the agency can decline to take enforcement action with respect to passive receivers. It's indicated an intent to do so, and also to use the settlement process to provide some protection. I would also note that it's very common for passive receivers to be regulated under other federal environmental frameworks as well, possibly most significantly for purposes of this hearing, the Clean Water Act and RCRA. If entities are discharging or releasing a hazardous substance in accordance with or in compliance with a specified federal environmental permit, including certain permits under the Clean Water Act and under RCRA, that release is considered or can be considered a federally permitted release under CERCLA. And federally permitted releases are exempt from liability specifically under the CERCLA framework. So that is something that is a very fact-specific inquiry, but could potentially apply with respect to certain passive receivers.
And Mr. Gerstenberg, as you mentioned last year, Clean Harbors conducted a PFAS incineration study in partnership with the EPA's Office of Research and Demonstration and the Department of Defense. Can you discuss how your PFAS incineration process prevents air and water pollution? And as a follow-up, how you're using it to monitor systems to ensure the safe destruction of PFAS?
Yes, thank you, Senator. The disposal testing that we did was at our high-temperature RCRA permitted incinerator in Utah. And there were very stringent monitoring devices that were put throughout the unit, understood the contaminant levels that were being fed into the unit, and were able to monitor the destruction all the way through the unit and through the very advanced pollution control systems that are put on the back end of the unit to assure complete destruction of 6 nines and 2 to 8 times below any thresholds for ambient air monitoring. So we were able to monitor that.
Thank you. My time has expired, but I have additional questions that I will submit for the record. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.